Good afternoon and welcome to Mike and the Hoss on Wolfeboro Community Television. Charlie, we try and do something different every week, and we are certainly different this week. We are a three-man team this week.
It's going to be awesome.
It is. We are welcoming local sports writer Josh Spalding to our set. He's going to stay with us for the whole show. Welcome, Josh.
How you guys doing today?
Great.
Good,
We're doing well. Josh, you know, most of the community knows who you are. They see your face in the granite. But you're not only in the Granite. You have been doing this for a while, and you're in certainly some other papers.
Yeah.
Who else are you covering?
Well, I do. My papers include, for me writing personally, I have 5 papers. So I do Plymouth High School, Newfound High School, then Prospect Mountain in Alton, and Kennett in North Conway, in addition to Kingswood. And then I oversee another 6 papers. So that includes all the North Country, Berlin, Lancaster, and then the rest around the lake.
So do you cover Berlin?
Personally, no, not normally.
Okay.
We have someone up there, but I oversee it. So
Okay.
I take the stories from the people, the pictures from the people. I put them all together and make the pages out for them.
Nice. And how long have you been doing this? I mean, I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long that's been.
I started part-time in 2001 and full-time in 2003 at the Granite.
Okay.
I've been doing Kingswood since 2003.
And you and I have a little bit of a link of North Country stuff. Mike Gato, I think we had talked about in the past that you mentored under Mike Gato. Is that?
Well, no, Michael Gato covered me when I was in high school.
Okay.
But he works for the same company. He worked for the same company I do. So he and I basically shared a company for a few years. Yeah.
And he was a teacher at Berlin High School when I was there, and so that's a little North Country link.
Yeah. Mike was fantastic. He was one of the good guys. That's for sure.
Charlie?
Yeah, so you do a lot of things, Josh, and first I want to say thank you for all the coverage. I mean, not only the high school sports, you cover local youth sports, and you cover just about everything. Yeah, which is awesome. You also have your own little personal column.
Yep.
The Sporting Chance.
Yeah,
correct.
Yep.
Tell me about that. Obviously it's something that you must enjoy doing.
It started as a way to get things out of my head, actually.
Sure.
And it started literally in February 2003. And I haven't missed a week, so it's 850 weeks. This coming week will be 850 weeks in a row.
Good for you.
That's
that
amazing.
I've written it. So it's it's some weeks it's hard to come up with a topic. Some weeks it's just you have an idea of what you're going to write right away. Some weeks things happen and you can do it. So it kind of makes a good a good way to get stuff out of my head.
Right, and then one of the things you always do is you always thank someone at the end.
Yeah. And
how do you come up with that?
Well, that's interesting, and that came from Mike Gato as he was talking about Mike. Mike always used to do that in his column in the Berlin Reporter, and when Mike passed away, I said, you know what, I'm going to keep doing that in memory of Mike. So someone who I had an interaction with over the week, or someone I just, for whatever reason, one or another, I just kind of put it at the end. So.
You've mentioned me, once or twice, and I know you mentioned Charlie. I mean, obviously, many other people in the community. It's kind of a nice thing to get a shout out in the paper. It really is.
I actually look forward to it, Josh. Not that I'm looking for my name, but I'm looking like, who did Josh, this week? And it's really cool to see all the different people from all walks of life that you interact with.
Yeah.
And when I was up in Berlin, Mike Gato mentioned my father one time, and it made my dad's day. It made his day, just that mention, and it's really kind of a cool thing. So I hope you keep doing that.
I started that when Mike passed away, and I just kind of been keeping it going ever since. There are weeks where I don't, if the column's kind of on a more serious note or a more solemn type of note, I won't. But for the most part, I try to do it every week.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great.
You're covering a large area, obviously. What are besides geographically and driving your car for that far, what are your challenges doing that? That's a big area.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is the getting to see as many teams as I possibly can, and it's tough. There's during most seasons I have depends, but 5 schools, and some schools have 7, 8 teams. Some schools have 4 or 5 teams.
Right.
So usually I have about 30 teams, varsity teams, and that's a challenge. Just trying to make sure I get to see everyone on an equal basis, so I'm not giving anybody favoritism.
Right.
So I'm not making somebody not in the paper for a long period of time.
Right.
So just getting to see everybody is probably the biggest challenge. And you try to spread it out as best you can. And this spring was a disaster with the rain and the weather and the fields and so made it tough to see people at times. So.
You've been counting the games. How long has that been going on?
Oh no, I do that. Last year was the first time I did that, and I just decided to do it at the beginning of the school year and see how many I can get. And last year it was not as high as this year because I was gone for a couple of weeks in the middle of February. But this year, so it's gone a little higher. I'm over 230 for the season. I think my last one will probably be this weekend. So, I just do it for the school year, and it's just it just keeps me occupied, I guess.
Well, you mentioned you were away in February, so I know that you're a world traveler.
Yeah.
And not only do you cover local sports, you cover international sports. So you've been to the Olympics?
Yeah,
Right.
I've been twice. That was the February 2018 was my second Olympics. That was Pyeongchang in South Korea. Yep. I went to Russia in 2014. That was the first one, and that was certainly that was the big one. That was to me that was a massive experience, a oh my goodness type of experience that you don't always get. The second one, it was much easier for me because I'd done the first one before.
Right.
So you get to that second one, you're kind of like the old hat at it now. You can just kind of
Follow me.
Yeah, even though it's in a different place, a lot of things are the same, and where you have to go to get things and how you have to get through security and all that stuff. And
now, with your press credentials, does that get you access to most everything?
it gets the press credentials we get us access to any venue or any event, with the exception of there's usually one or two what they call high demand events. Figure skating finals are usually in that list. Men's hockey finals are usually on that list. In which case we have to apply for tickets in my case, through the U.S. Olympic Committee. So if I just wanted a ticket I wanted a press seat for that, I would have to apply for it.
Gotcha.
I didn't go to any of those, so I didn't worry about it. It was, one of those things where it's like, well, I'm going to leave it to somebody who has a reason to cover them.
Right.
I'm there trying to get local athletes and trying to get as much local flair as I can. And if there's somebody else who's has to go in there to cover somebody, I would rather let them have the ticket.
How difficult is it to get the press pass for yourself? I mean, for the local thing.
Well, the first time around, I just saw this. The U.S. Olympic Committee sends out the email and they say, you want to apply for credentials. Here's the credentials. And I looked at the credential list, and I literally. Weekly newspapers was basically at the bottom of the list as of priority.
Right.
There was very little priority given to it, and I understand that completely, 100%. You got your
Mike and the Hoss would be below that.
I don't know. You guys are broadcast TV is totally different. But so and it was way at the bottom of the list, and I said, well, I'm never going to get it, but it doesn't hurt to apply. Put your name out there, and and I got a call I applied in the summertime, and I got a call in October. I was at I think I was at the Carroll County Championship game, if I'm not mistaken, right after that, and I got a phone call, and it was a woman from Buffalo, and she was a journalist from Buffalo, and she was calling to do an interview, and they literally interviewed me right there on the phone, and they talked about what my plans were for how I was going to do this, and so they were doing that on behalf of the U.S. Olympic Committee, and I went through the whole interview, and I said, okay, great, and that was nice, and I had a good talk with them, and when she, so when I got an email and they said, oh, congratulations, you've been accepted, I was like, well, my goodness gracious, so I was actually kind of surprised, truthfully, but the second time I didn't have to go through that, when I did the second Winter Olympics, I was already on the list, and I had already gone through it once, so I didn't even need to go through any of that, I just applied for the credentials and got them.
Nice. Oh, nice.
Summer Olympics are going to be a little different, but...
So the Summer Olympics are in
next summer, 2020 in Tokyo.
Tokyo.
So,
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, the plan for that. I applied for credentials, and again, I had to go through an interview process, and I got really lucky on this interview process. The guy doing the interview was Matt Pepin, who was the sports editor of the Boston Globe, and Matt and I met in Korea when we were both covering the Winter Olympics, and we had a great relationship there. Like, we helped each other out, and he was great because he'd done it before, and he was fantastic, and he helped me pick out some local athletes who I didn't even know local athletes had connections, and so we had a really good relationship in Korea. We covered a lot of the same stuff. So he's the one who interviewed me, and it was kind of nice. And he goes, "I know what you do," he says, and he says, "I can't make any promises, but he says, I know the work you put in, and I know what you do." And so when I got approved, I was like, "Well, thank you, Matt."
Now, when you were over at the Olympics, did you have some downtime to sightsee China, Korea?
China, I haven't been to China yet, but in Russia it was not.
I'm sorry, not China. Yeah, Russia.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
In Russia, it wasn't as much. Like, there was, because I was so nervous about everything, and just because it was new and it was all, oh my goodness gracious, what's going on? I didn't take as much opportunity to go out and explore. And it's Russia, and you don't know what's going to happen. You get outside the Olympic zone, and you're kind of like, okay.
Right.
In Korea, they had this opportunity for us as media members to go on different tours, and we could go to different places. I went to the DMZ, went up and stood right on the North Korea, South Korea, right in the DMZ between
Straddled
the two.
the line.
We didn't go that far. We went right to the edge of the DMZ on the South Korea side. So we were there, and it was just it was like the guards would point out, hey, you look over there and you can see the towers, and we can see the towers, you know, they're right on the border, and you know, you can look in the mountain. Those mountains are all in North Korea, and it was kind of weird, but it was pretty awesome because it was something I would never get to do otherwise. So.
Right.
That's awesome. Do you primarily, is this all fundraising as far as paying for it, or
Yeah,
does the paper pick it up a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Okay. Like, I mean, I get paid while I'm there, so it's like I'm doing my job, and I still do my job while I'm there. I do.
We know that. We
I have people who work for me here that help me out and cover games, but I do a lot of my emails with coaches and still do all the page setup, and I do everything that I normally do here. I just do it in the media center over there. But mostly it's people donating that paid for it. I mean, the Russia trip was completely funded by donations from people, which boggled my mind. And Korea was almost completely funded, and I had money left over from Russia, and I pushed it forward, and I moved it forward and put it into that. So, and then I had 4 years, so it made a difference. So Japan coming up in 2020 is a little different because I only had a year and a half, 2 years to do it as opposed to things. So I'll probably end up paying more of that one myself, but you know, that's the way it goes.
If somebody wants to donate, how do they go about doing that?
Well, if they really want to, like, I do have a GoFundMe page, and it's under my name on GoFundMe, and there's also TD Bank right downtown, Wolfeboro branch. Ben is the assistant manager down there. He knows the account, that number that's there, and there's a whole account set up that's there.
That's great.
Well, we know you professionally. We want to know you a little more personally, Josh.
Nah, it's not much to know there.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Survivor.
Yep.
Tell me about that. How did that start? I mean, I watched the first couple seasons of Survivor and I love it, but you are...
I didn't watch the first couple seasons.
You're a Survivor professional.
See, I didn't watch the first couple seasons.
Okay.
No, I
Not
didn't.
a Richard Hatch fan?
No, I've watched them since.
Okay.
But I didn't start watching, weirdly enough, until season 8, which was the All-Star season.
Yeah.
But it aired right after the Patriots were in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Okay.
And it was just on. And I remember turning it on. I had no idea who any of the people were, but they were the All-Stars of Survivor, and I had no idea. I'm like, wow. And I watched it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not bad. And I haven't missed an episode since, and I've gone back and I've watched the first 7 seasons in that time, but I haven't missed an episode since. You know, it's like, and
you travel around and tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I go to places, and I listen. I'm a patron of a podcast that covers mostly Survivor, Big Brother. I don't watch Big Brother, but they do Big Brother and Amazing Race. They do all these television show podcasts, and every season, every Survivor season, so twice a year, they do live shows. So I go to wherever they're having their live show. Most of the time it's in New York, but they've done them in Boston, Philadelphia this year. I've been to LA for them. So I go out and I try to go to these events, and you meet sometimes
you get to meet them. I mean, do you have a favorite? Have you met Boston Rob?
I've met Boston Rob. That was one of the highlights of my Survivor
guy?
career. He was a little... Well, he'd been playing poker for about 12 hours when I met him, so he's a little tired and a little out there. But that was one of the highlights for me. I went all the way to Reno, literally, just to meet Boston Rob.
That's cool.
Like that was the whole reason I planned that trip. So.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I never thought we'd have a Richard Hatch shout out on this show, but that's
look at that. See, you got something to do every day.
I was a season 1 fan.
Yeah.
And then I faded. I did fade, and
have you met Jeff?
Jeff Probst, no, I have not. Yeah, and he, I didn't watch. I've gone back, like I said, I've gone back and watched it. But that second season was the most. It was the most watched television show in the United States. That finale of season 2, most watched television show in the United States that year. So a lot of people watched it, and it's dropped off a lot. But I still enjoy it.
I think it's a good show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, it has a great following. I mean, I follow you on Twitter, Josh, and I see the stuff that you have on Twitter, and I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are really still into Survivor. So that's a cool thing. Let's talk Kingswood Sports, because we mentioned Caitlin Carpenter last week, and there was a couple other ones that we missed. Brent Coop
and Jack Dales.
Jack Dales also participated in the States.
The Meet a Champions. Yeah. Brent was in the 800. He finished 3rd at the Division 2 meet, and so that moved him on. And Jack was 5th in the high jump at the Division 2 meet, so that moved him on to Meet a Champions as well. So neither of them moved on, but Caitlin did move on. She won the Meet a Champions, which is an amazing.
That's amazing.
Which is an amazing
triple
accomplishment.
jump, right?
Triple jump. She jumped. It was third. It was one inch further in Meet a Champions than she jumped in the state meet. So she's moving on. She's going to New England's, which is Saco, Maine, on Saturday. So she's able to move right on, and then anybody in the top 6 gets to move on.
Are you going up to Saco? Or
that's the plan. All the rest of my teams are out, so I am able to. I'm free and able to go. If Berlin softball had won last night, I may have been in Plymouth for Berlin softball, but they lost last night. So I'm going to Saco, Maine.
So nobody in Lakes region or with anybody that you cover is still playing in baseball or softball?
The only team we have left after last night, out of all of our papers, is the White Mountain Regional Baseball Team, and they're playing in the finals on Saturday. Yeah,
good
the
for
rest
them.
of our papers, most of the softball, baseball teams lost in the last couple of days.
All right. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Bruins?
Let's talk Bruins. Last night was tough.
Last night, so the Bruins, they lost last night. It was a controversial game. It's another controversial game. That second goal with the slew foot that happened right before it. Are they in trouble? I guess anybody who's down 3-2 is in trouble,
Yeah,
right?
Anybody's down 3-2, but you're also at that point where you're down 3-2. You got nothing to lose. So I think you're going to go out there and you're going to throw everything you have at that in Game 6, and you have to. You have the choice. I think part of the problem last night, besides that ridiculous non-call, was they were playing with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, and that's not a formula that's going to win you Stanley Cup games. I know the reason they did it, and I understand exactly the reason they did it. But that makes things really tough because your lines are screwed up. Your lines aren't playing together.
Right.
They're not the people that they're used to playing with. That can make a difference, I think.
And you're skating 3 centers, and that's tiring. It is tiring. I don't think you're going to see that. What they're playing Sunday, I
Sunday
believe,
night,
right?
yeah.
Sunday.
Because Chara obviously looked that
Yeah.
he can play
Yeah.
with the broken jaw.
And I think Grizzly will be back Sunday. I think.
And that'll make a big
but
difference.
even if he's not, I don't think they're going 7 on Sunday either. Yeah.
You don't think they're going 7?
No, I don't think they're going 7 defensemen on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're going to Game 7.
I think they're going to get 7.
Yeah.
And the
they've already
reason why-
been there in the playoffs. They've been down 3-2.
Yep.
every game that
2011.
they've had to win, they've won.
Yep.
Every
Yes.
single time that they've had to win. They've been down 3-2, they've been down 2-1, and if they've had to win, they come through and they win. And
I'm waiting for you to make your announcement that you're going to be going to St. Louis to this game. Will this be happening?
Well-
Should we let Mrs. Danae know this right now?
The Game 7 from Toronto happened after Game 6.
Yes.
Lying on the couch in a weakened state, and Sam got to me on that one. So that would probably have to happen just like that.
Yeah.
Game 7 is
In Boston.
Game 7 is Boston. I thought you were going to be going to Game
Tuesday or
6 in St. Louis.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
They put 2
All right.
days off when they travel between cities.
so.
So Game 7 is an option for the Danaes. All right.
Maybe not miss the
Don't
name.
forget
but,
about the Haas. He's also available.
officiating.
Yeah.
I more this year than ever before in hockey. I mean, we hear about it in football a lot. We hear about it in basketball a lot. I hadn't heard about it in hockey until this year.
Yeah.
That the calls, the hand pass with St. Jose and St. Louis.
Yeah.
The missed calls that are happening. And they actually are moving the game. They are changing. They're affecting the game, because these are pivotal. The goal that the puck went off the screen. Remember the puck went off the screen
Yep,
against the
yep,
Bruins. I mean,
yep.
there's been a few of these things.
Yeah.
What's going on? I mean, is it just
I think it's
one
just
of those years?
I also think it's kind of been in key situations. I think that's a lot of it. Truthfully, is that it doesn't get noticed unless it's in a big situation.
Yeah.
It's in a massive, huge moment when it turns the game. I think that's when it gets noticed. And I'm sure, no official. Never is perfect, and that's without a question. I still don't know how they missed that call last night, but again, I'm not an official. I can't speak to that. But I think that when they get in such big situations like that, it becomes just much more obvious, and people see it,
And more people are watching it.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
more people are watching it. And
Yeah, a regular season game between
Their focus. Yeah, every Bruins fan.
the
is
Florida
on them.
Panthers and nobody's watching it.
Right.
You're not going to see it.
Before we get away from the Bruins, did you see Neely huck his water bottle?
Yeah.
Threw it at the wall.
Isn't that what you wanted general
Yeah.
manager to do?
Absolutely.
To live and die?
That's
that
Cam
was,
Neely on his birthday, nonetheless.
That
Yeah.
was a good scene.
Yeah, that was. I had to laugh. I laughed when I saw that.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he was pissed, but he had a reason to be. That was a pretty tough non-call there.
All right, let's jump to the Red Sox.
All right.
6.5 back. I mean, better than I thought it was going to be. After the first 2 games of the Yankee series, they weren't looking very good.
Yeah. No.
And but they're getting healthy against KC, which is nice. The Yankees.
They keep
obviously
rolling. The Yankees
well,
are
the Yankees
rolling.
lost a couple games.
Yeah, but
for them to close that gap.
they're
put
also
on-
playing. Hey, relax. They're playing Kansas City. So unless we had
No, they're not anymore. They're all done.
I'm just saying. Unless we had 30 more games against Kansas City.
Well, we do have a lot of games against Baltimore.
Yeah, but we struggled against Baltimore.
But most of the Yankees' wins have come against Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I think the schedule is still in their favor. I had put on our notes, is it time to give up on the division?
No.
We're still,
No.
we're not there yet?
I'm not. No.
I think Kansas
Six and a half back. Sorry, Josh.
No, you're fine. Kansas City came around at the right time. That
Yeah.
they needed to go into Kansas City and take all 3 of those games. If they didn't take all 3 of their games, that time to give up on division, you might be looking at a different answer.
Yeah.
But I think going in, taking all 3 of those games, and getting the 3rd game without having to use one of your good pitchers, quote unquote, and you can take them into Tampa Bay now in a 4-game series in Tampa Bay and have all 4 of your key starters ready to go. I'd say that's a good thing. You get Mitch Moreland back tonight. That's not a bad thing either. I think Chavis has been struggling a little bit. He can use a break.
Yeah.
I think Mitch Moreland will give him a chance maybe to get off the seat for a little bit and give him a break. But I think that Kansas City was a perfect time coming for them, and I'm not going to give up on the division. I never do until they're officially eliminated. But I think that there
That's
was
an optimistic.
yeah, I'm a Red Sox fan. Like you guys, I've lived through those
Yeah.
those years where things weren't so good, and I've learned that you never take anything for granted, but at the same time, don't count them out yet.
Well, Chicken and Beer, that year, they were 7 up, 8 up when
Yep.
they started folding the last couple of weeks of the season, so until they clinched. But what do you think, Josh, is the difference between last year and this year? I mean, if you were going to put your finger on one thing,
I don't know.
On the spot a little bit.
I really don't know. I've been trying to figure out that same question because it's essentially the same group of guys. Subtract Joe Kelly and Craig Kimbrell, and are Joe Kelly and Craig Kimbrell that much difference in the locker room? I don't know. I mean, I know that Joe Kelly was a pretty funny guy.
Yeah, well, Joe Kelly playoffs pitcher.
But I think he was also a pretty funny guy in the clubhouse. He was a kind of relaxing guy.
Yeah.
Joe Kelly regular season was not very good.
No, not
Especially
regular
at the
season.
beginning.
No, playoff Joe Kelly.
And I think it's tough to know what exactly the difference is because again, you have these essentially the same players. I mean, obviously now you have Michael Chavis in there, and you have most of the same guys, same coaching staff. There's not a change, and you've got to wonder whether just last year was just a magical thing that just happens.
Josh, do you think is Mookie playing for the team or is Mookie playing for Mookie for next year? What do you think?
I don't know. I think Mookie is probably playing a little bit for Mookie for next year. I mean, he's in a contract. He's looking at a contract. I get that.
He's got another year though.
Well, 2 years.
He's
Yeah,
got 2 years.
he's got another year. But he's looking at that. I gotta.
Yeah.
But I also think he's also pushing. He's also in a situation where I was an MVP last year. I should be on top of things this year, and I'm not. And that tends to get people pushing. And when you're pushing, things tend to go wrong. And I mean, he's not playing badly, and he's not. It's not like he's a hindrance to the team. No. But I mean, certainly, I think there's a little bit to it where he's just pushing around a little too much, and sometimes that gets you in trouble.
If you look at the numbers this year and numbers last year individually, they're pretty close to the same. They're not that far off. And so I mean, if I was going to make a simple answer for what's going on with the Red Sox, is last year their timing was perfect. If they had hitting, then it would be the time when the pitching would struggle.
Right.
If the pitching was hot, then the hitting would struggle. And so they were working off each other, very complementary that they were playing. Where this year, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They're losing games, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, and that kind of stuff. The hitting just isn't there when they're giving up runs. So I just, it's timing, and the one thing that's nice about Major League Baseball is 162 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a long season.
It seeks its level. Water seeks its level, and you're very confident that at the end of 162, the better team is going to end up on top. And so if the Sox are the better team, which I still believe they're the better team than the Yankees in the long run. I mean, the Yankees are playing really well.
Yeah.
But I think top to bottom, the Red Sox are better. I think that it's going to seek its level. I could be wrong, but I mean, I think it's going to seek its level.
Yeah.
Do you think the Rays are going to hang around?
Like they usually do.
Yeah.
They usually do.
I think they usually
And honestly,
do.
They had attendance, last week? They had attendance of 5,500 down there. I'd like to live down there.
I went to a game when I was down there with the baseball team a number of years ago. I actually went to a Tampa Bay game. That place is just not fun to watch a game, but it's cheap, and it's easy to get in. But I honestly, the Yankees, when they get their people back from injuries, they could be an incredibly dangerous team. They scare me a little bit just because they're doing so well without all these people that they could use.
I would also make the argument that the guys that they get back are probably not going to put up better numbers than the guys that are in there because they're hitting so well.
Yeah.
Some of the guys that are in there,
It might be hard to replace them.
Yeah. So We'll see. All right. We
Yeah,
gotta
well,
get this-
yeah.
we gotta
Last
get
week, I
to
mean,
a couple
last week
things.
we talked about Mount Rushmore. It was kind of a hot topic.
Yes.
So we really want to get Josh's New England sports Mount Rushmore.
All right, we're putting you on the spot.
Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot for
Put me
this.
on the spot.
We'll see.
Okay,
well,
about 15 minutes
Mike
ago,
and
they
I
put me on the
disagreed
spot,
on
so-
one player last week.
Oh, okay, all right.
We'll guide you through to make it go quicker. We'll guide
Yeah.
you through.
You don't
So
have
let's.
Football was kind of unanimous. Football. I mean,
Well,
what do you think?
who do I think?
Football.
Oh, Drew Bledsoe, maybe? No?
Probably Drew Bledsoe. Yeah. Steve Grogan.
Yeah,
maybe?
possibly. Tony Eason was always,
Josh, you lose.
Yeah,
All right,
I would say, obviously football,
Okay,
pretty obvious.
so
Tom,
we all
Tom
went with-
Brady's
we
number
all
one.
went with
Yeah,
Brady.
without a question.
All right,
yes.
basketball.
As a kid of the 80s, I'm going to say Larry Bird, but I believe that you could also put Bill Russell on that list. Either one of them would be a safe pick. My pick as a child of the 80s would be Larry Bird simply because I loved Larry Bird growing up.
Okay, so he's going generational.
That's fine.
no,
All right, all right, all right.
I respect that.
Hockey.
Hockey, I don't think there's much. I would love to say Ray Bork, but I'm going to say Bobby Orr
Yeah.
because
Okay.
without a question, he's the best hockey player that's ever come through Boston. I love Ray Bork. He's my favorite player of all time. But Bobby Orr, without a question, is the
All right.
Bruin number.
Now this is where Charlie and I disagreed a
Oh,
little bit.
really?
Yeah.
Baseball.
Baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport. I am a huge Red Sox fan. I've always been a Red Sox fan, and I didn't get to see a lot of the great Red Sox players play because they just came along before I was around. But I don't think you can discount Ted Williams out of any discussion whatsoever. So I would say Carl Yastrzemski as well would be a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
And I would even say that someone like A. Pedro would be a perfectly fine choice as well. But my choice would be Ted Williams.
What do you think about Ortiz?
I have no problems with Ortiz, but Ortiz was a designated hitter, and I have a hard time putting a one-dimensional, quote-unquote, one-dimensional player on a list of the greatest in Boston.
He only won 3 championships. So
Without a question, I think that's a very good point. And I think that he's the best, probably slugger the Red Sox have ever had. I wouldn't argue with that. I think just overall player, I have to say I don't think quite
that's fine.
go.
Josh, Mike's a little bit bitter because our 14-year-olds picked Ted Williams.
Okay.
So
who did he pick?
I was Ortiz.
He went with
Okay.
the
That's just perfect. Yeah.
We were both Russell. We were both Brady. We were both Orr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we
differed on.
And the argument was about is it about just
Championship,
about numbers or does championships weigh into
And
it?
I think that raised into it. I think that could weigh. Those 3 championships put Ortiz higher than he would normally be.
Absolutely.
If they don't win those championships without him, he's not in the top 5. And without a question, he's in the top 5 Red Sox players of all time, in my opinion. Yeah.
And think about it. It goes back to our designated hitter debate. If we didn't have a DH, Ortiz wouldn't have been playing.
It's quite possible. He
is
would have been
true.
playing first base,
That
and
is true.
Yeah,
how
that is
long
true.
that experience
Yeah.
would have lasted. Yeah.
So who knows? All right, we are
I can't believe we're out of time.
we're out of time. Do you want to just push this to the next week? I guess.
Let's do it. We'd love to
right.
have you back, Josh.
Whatever.
So our topic was going to be instant replay. We were going to talk about instant replay in sports and its place in sports and how it's affecting the games and should it be there and so on. And I mean, we've talked, hockey, obviously,
Today, that would have been a good way to hit the hockey. That's
yeah.
for sure.
But it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent and more debated on whether we could be. But we are out of time, and so we're going to have to push it to the next time,
yeah.
we get together. So
do this.
anything else, Charlie?
No, Josh, thanks so much
of course.
for being with us. It's a
My
lot of fun. It's fun having 3.
It was a quick half hour.
It's even nice when we go 2 against 1.
All right. That's going to do it for us. This is Mike and the Austin Wolfeboro Community Television. Thank you, Josh Balding, for joining us, and we will see you next week. Go Knights
Go Knights.
and Bruins.